Hey guys, welcome back to Fabrication 101. This is part 2 of the angle iron build. In this one we're going to be cutting, beveling, and tacking these together. So in that last video I forgot to mention that there's another way that you can cope these. And it's basically the same thing, but instead of marking out this way to cut, or to cut that way, you also mark this piece right here and then cut that out. That way when you put it together, you got a nice open corner here and an open corner on the bottom there, and you don't have to bevel anything except for down here. So this is a nice little trick that I do when I'm building frames that something has to fit into, or the inside measurement has to be, or is the most important part. So what I'll do is I'll take my measurement and I'm just going to add a 16th. So this one is 17 and 7/8, so that's 17 and 15/16. Alright. Then this way is 5.5, so that's 5 9/16. And then make sure it's cross squared, so get that in the same spot. Come over, looks like 5/8. Nah, what is that? 11/16. And 11/16. Alright. And you want to check that, because if you don't and your cut was just slightly off, then when you build the frame it's all going to be off. So you want them to be exactly the same like these two. And if you don't have a stop that's long enough, see, I have a stop that I can use, but if you don't have that, an easy way to do it is to line them up just like that. Make sure it's deburred, so that way you're getting the right reading. And then all you do is scooch this in until the blade is just barely touching right there. You don't want to have it actually pushing on the blade, because then it's going to come this way and cut down and it's going to be short. So you want it just over to right when it, either right before, or right at that blade. And if it's just a tiny bit long, you can always hit it with a sander. But if it's short, it's short. It's not going to work. Once you get your pieces cut, make sure they're the exact same length. And if they're not, sand them until they are. And hopefully you didn't cut them short, because you can't really add that much metal. Anyways, these are all cut. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to miter these. The reason I left them at the exact same length is because I'm going to leave that open corner joint right like that, and I'm just going to 45 these, and that'll give me the same inside width that this guy is, so that I don't have to add an 1/8 or 3/32 to each side and figure out the math in that. And then I would have to sand these down anyways to get a nice bevel. This way, it's nice, quick, and easy. And the same thing works with if you're doing cope joint. So if you have this the exact same width, when you butt that up, that same width stays the same, and same with this. You want this overall to be your length. Alright, so I got this nice and tight in this vise, and it is lined up. Hopefully you can see exactly with that guy on this side of it. And when you start this, you don't want to just drop it, because down here there's a little curve on it, and if you just drop it, then that blade's going to follow that and it's going to widen up your joint. So you want to start it and then slowly lower it. So here's a really good tip. And this works anytime that you got a piece like this that's too short. See, this one's short, and when I get it set, it's not going to want to stay because of that, this pivot point right there. So little trick, get this guy out of the way. Get some vice grips. Get it lined up where you need it. Clamp it. Now it's good to cut. You just got to make sure that this is out of the way of your saw. Something to keep in mind when you're cutting these angles, you know, this side, one side's going to be cut like this in your bandsaw, but then you're going to have to flip the other one over to get it cut. What I do to find the exact spot is you got to follow this edge straight up here and then make a mark exactly where it is and then put the edge of that blade right on it. If you don't and you try to eyeball it, sometimes it's a little off. It's kind of hard to tell just by looking. Alright, so I got all the pieces cut and I've gone ahead and mocked them up real quick, make sure everything seems alright, seems good. I'm going to tear them apart and take all these and bevel that edge right there. I like a nice deep bevel, especially when I'm MIG welding. For TIG, you don't need much because it really penetrates deep. Another thing to keep in mind is angle iron and pretty much all bent metal has a radius on the inside there. So if you're going to be putting something into it, you got to make sure either that has been radiused, or you're going to have to come in here with a cutoff wheel and grind into that, and that sucks. So just keep that in mind. It all has radiuses. If you're putting a piece of metal in there, a lot of times we have bent metal like this at work and we have to put gussets and stuff in it. You got to grind that out or sand it rounded to fit that in there and weld it. Otherwise it's going to be like that. That's not what you want. So when I'm going to be beveling apart, all I'm using is a belt sander. I used to use just a flap disc, but then I bought this guy. So all you're going to do is come in, raise it to a 45 or whatever you like. I like 45s, and then just sand on it, and then take a look and you'll be able to see that this side's sanding more than this side. So then you're going to push more on that side, and you just keep adjusting as you're doing it. And the same goes with the 45 angle. You're going to come in at your 45 sideways and then your 45 up, and then you're just going to check, see, oh, it's sanding over here too much, so I'll come over on this side, and you just keep doing it until you get that bevel the depth that you like. Okay guys, so I went and beveled all of these. You can see I have about a 1/16 land on all of them. I like around a 1/16 to 3/32 because with the MIG that'll keep me from burning through. And I like to just butt them up together. I don't like an open root on them. Sometimes you have to shim it, you know, in case you cut wrong. But generally try to get them nice tight fit. So I think I'm going to go ahead and grind all this mill scale off. You don't want to leave mill scale on, especially when you're TIG welding, but even with MIG. I'll do it for like little things, you know, but to do it right you want to grind all your mill scale off because short circuit doesn't bite through mill scale very well. You'll see lots and lots of pictures where the weld is cracked out and busted off right at the toe, and it's because it hasn't penetrated through that mill scale, and that crack will form right there. And even if you got into the root, that guy will just bury itself straight into the root and snap it out. Alright, so I've set up my little 90 jig here. And also, you only want to put your tacks on this side. It can be on the inside here or up here, but only on this, and I'll show you why in a minute. And I'm just putting itty bitty tacks, because for right now you don't need big ones. But remember to load up your next one the exact same way, short side here, long side here, otherwise it's not going to work. So I'll set that aside, grab the next piece, Now, I'm going to spin this one sideways. Get this piece in here. I have too much crap on my table. Something to remember is when you are putting the two sections together, don't worry if after you tack one, you get that tacked, you flip it around, that it's not touching. Don't worry about that. As long as you cut every piece exactly the same length, or these two pieces same length, those two pieces the same length, and then when you tacked them, you put them corner to corner exactly at the bottom, all the way around, then it's not going to matter. You can square it up after that. The important thing is exact same cut pieces and the exact same gap tacked together. Alright, well this piece is all tacked together now, because I had squared it up on tape, but I guess it didn't record. But anyways, to square it up, what I like to do is I don't measure from the outside like this. If you hook here, your tack is going to get in the way, and also this, the end of that tape measure, will kind of be in the way or change if you grab it at different spots. So it's going to give you a false reading. So what I do is I come in here and push, because as you go it pivots, and it'll pivot the same both ways. And then just make sure you read the opposite side. So I'll come over here and I'll read 18.5 on the top of this, and then I'll come in here and I'll read 18.5 on the bottom of it. That way you're reversing it. So you see the triangle that it makes. The short side is the side you read. Short side, the side you read of the tape measure. It keeps it real precise when you do it that way. Okay guys, so I went ahead and tacked these up right in the corners. I tacked it up, checked it, it stayed nice and square. And in the next video we're going to be welding it out, and I'll show you the sequences to use and how to adjust on the fly to keep it square. And hopefully we'll be able to finish this up. I know it's long, 3 videos for a simple little frame, but I like to go into details. Anyways, hopefully all those little tips and stuff help you. If it did, appreciate a thumbs up, or if you'd subscribe. We're trying to put out more videos each week. I actually just started on another one, showing how to TIG weld carbon steel. I got some arc shots on it, and I was hoping to put it up this week, but I haven't had time. But I'll do a few more on this and get into some in-depth of how I do carbon steel. Anyways, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.